So today's talk is summer sun damage repair. So we'll talk a little bit about sun damage, how we can protect our skin, and then we'll highlight a really fantastic treatment to address signs of sun damage. So today's agenda, we'll talk about those UV rays. Again, what are they doing to our skin? What damage are they causing? How can we protect ourselves? And again, highlight one of my favorite lasers, which is the Fraxel Dual for sun damage. We'll look at really great before and after photos, and then we'll have some time for some questions. Okay, guys. So I'm Corynn. I've been here for over 6 years. I specialize in the lasers at the office, Fraxel being a major one, but also Halo, V-Beam, Alex, just to name a few. Free time, I love spending time with family, hiking, and horseback riding. Yeah, so I'm sure we can all think back to a fantastic time in the summer when we were somewhere warm and magical. For a lot of folks, that might have even been this summer. What are those sun rays doing, though, as we sit there, we're relaxing, we're listening to the ocean, and not even just on our summer vacations, but what is that sun doing to us every single day? So the sun is going to emit 3 different types of UV radiation. We have our UVA, our UVB, and our UVC rays. UVC rays are luckily fully blocked by the Earth's ozone, so they don't reach us, but the UVA and the UVB rays will. UVB rays are going to be a shorter wavelength. These are going to impact just the top layer of skin. Sometimes you'll have these kind of nicknamed or oversimplified as our burning rays. They're going to damage cells. These poor cells, overwhelmed, are going to die, and this is going to create this painful inflammatory response that many of us know as a sunburn. These UVB rays are also going to directly damage the DNA of our cells, so that's going to create mutations that can then lead on to skin cancers. UVA rays, which again kind of nicknamed, oversimplified as more of our aging rays, longer wavelengths of energy, so they're going to go deeper into our skin. They're going to go down into that dermis level. They create these really reactive free radicals that damage and degrade our collagen and our elastin fibers. And then these reactive free radicals go on to create more damage as they impact the DNA of our cells, leading to more mutations and more skin cancers. So the UVB rays are a small percentage of the rays reaching us. They make up about 5% of that solar radiation. They're going to be strongest midday, so that 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. window, stronger in the summer months, and they can be filtered some by glass and clouds, although we know that we can definitely get a sunburn even on cloudy days. UVA rays, majority of the rays, 95% of the solar radiation. There's some variation throughout the day and throughout, different seasons, but generally they're going to remain fairly strong throughout all daylight hours and throughout the entire year. These penetrate very easily through glass, through clouds. It's important to note that the UV index that we hear a lot about, we see on our weather apps, that is only taking into account the UVB rays, which is such a small piece of that picture. So if we're looking at that app and it says the UV index is very low, it's in the winter months, we might get this false sense of security that we don't need to wear our sunscreen, we don't need to be worried about the sun, but in fact, we're still being impacted and damaged by all those UVA rays. So what does this do to our skin? All these years of sun, perhaps in our teenage years when we weren't being as careful. As we degrade our collagen and elastin fibers, we're going to see more wrinkling. We're going to see lines becoming deeper, etched. Skin loses we start to see laxity. We start to see kind of a more sagging appearance. Pores become more visible. Skin loses its luster, its youthful glow, starts to look very dull, dry, rough. Blood vessels become much more apparent. We'll see individual brown spots. Often we'll see kind of more patchy hyperpigmentation, kind of more of a diffuse unevenness. We'll see precancerous lesions, and we'll see skin cancers as well. In talking with patients on sun and sun damage, I hear a lot of misconceptions. One of One of them being that your skin, if it tans, it's not being damaged. You know, people say, oh, I never burn. But unfortunately, what a tan is your body is desperately trying to protect itself. It's producing extra melanin to try to defend against those harmful rays. But the tan and that increase in melanin is such a slight benefit. So we're getting like an SPF boost of like 3 to 4, which is far too weak to prevent damage, to prevent sunburns. A tan is unfortunately tangible evidence that our skin's DNA is being damaged. It's already been damaged. Our collagen and elastin fibers have already been damaged. Another common thing I hear is darker skin tones. You know, I have darker skin. I'm more protected. I don't need to be worried about this. More melanin does provide more protection. That is true. So skin type 6, you'll see that on the far right side of the Fitzpatrick scale. They might have a natural innate SPF of about 13 to 15, whereas a fair individual, skin type 1, skin type 2, might only have a innate SPF of about 2. So yes, there is slight more protection. But the truth is all skin tones can sunburn. Darker skin tones, you might not appreciate the redness, but those cells are being damaged. They're dying. We're getting that inflammatory response. All skin tones can develop skin cancer. And in fact, darker skin tones, sometimes when it's diagnosed, it's later on. The prognosis might be worse. The UV radiation is going to be breaking down and degrading our collagen, our elastin, all skin tones, and pigment. Pigment affects everyone as well. So what should we be doing to protect our skin? And this is going beyond just our summer vacation, but what should we be doing every single day? You've got some things here listed. We'll kind of dive into these a little bit deeper. Sunscreen is one of the most important things. We should be doing this every single day, winter, summer, cloudy days, sunny days. The American Academy of Dermatology recommends that we have a broad spectrum SPF of a number 30 or higher every single day. So broad spectrum, this is an FDA label requirement that means that sunscreen blocks both UVA and UVB rays. In the United States, the number that we're looking at in our rating scale is just the SPF. That's going to be measuring specifically the UVB rays. So there are rating systems with other sunscreens in different countries. There's a UVA rating system in the UK. There's a PA rating system in Japanese brands. But in the United States, again, we're looking with that broad spectrum term, and we're looking at the SPF number. I tell patients, don't get too worked up about the SPF number. Yes, a higher SPF is going to block more rays, but the difference is slight. So we have an SPF of 30 blocking 97%, SPF of 50, 98. So again, find that 30 or higher. Don't get too worked up about the number. Sunscreen, we really should be applying every 2 hours, immediately after we towel off from swimming, sweating, making sure that we're applying a generous amount. So they recommend 1 ounce. If you can visualize kind of like a shot glass, that's what we should be using to cover our body. So with sunscreens, you're going to get 2 different groups or classifications. You have your chemical-based sunscreens and your physical-based sunscreens. So chemical-based, these are organic compounds, avobenzone, oxybenzone. You can see some of the names that we'll see listed on those active ingredients. These organic compounds absorb into the skin, and when that UV radiation hits them, a chemical reaction occurs, and it converts the UV radiation to heat. These are generally what you'll find if sunscreen is added to a makeup, to a daily moisturizer. They tend to be a little bit more lightweight, more transparent. So typically what you'll find, considerations with these, they can be irritating to the skin. I see that commonly. There's a lot of ongoing thought and research on possible health implications. And again, these are absorbing into the skin, possibly into the bloodstream. They don't they take time to become active. So it takes about 15 minutes for them to absorb, to activate into the skin. Physical sunscreen, so that's going to be utilizing our zinc oxide or titanium dioxide, and they're going to sit on that top layer of skin. So they are physically blocking those rays. Ideal for sensitive skins, much less irritating. They're effective immediately after applying. And I like these much better for my melasma patients, patients that suffer from pigment. Melasma can be driven by heat, and so to have a sunscreen that's producing heat in the skin is not our top pick. Considerations with the mineral blockers, historically, they've always been thicker. Darker skin tones, they might notice more of a white cast. I will say, though, that these have come a long way. Luckily, we're very blessed to have a lot of good medical grade sunscreens here that do blend very well. They're lightweight. Tinted sunscreens are definitely gaining popularity, and I'm glad that they're doing so. The iron oxides that they add for that color is another filter blocking agent for visible light, blue lights. There's a lot of research that these light sources, the lights coming off of our computers, our cell phones, is damaging. It dries pigment. So the tinted sunscreens are going to get this added benefit. And then the color, if somebody is concerned about a physical blocker causing more of a white cast, it helps to mask that. So sunscreens can be a bit complicated. It's normal to have a little bit of confusion. What sunscreen what do I need to pick? What do I need to select? So ideally, again, we're looking for broad spectrum. So we're looking for UVA, UVB coverage. We want the SPF 30 or higher. Ideally, when you look at the active ingredients, it's just say zinc oxide plus or minus titanium dioxide, and only those two. Ideally, if that zinc concentration could be a 10% or higher, something with a tint would be ideal, and something that's medical grade. So something that has gone through extensive research, studies. There are skincare things that you can kind of, skimp on per se, but a good sunscreen, something that's protecting your skin, is worth that daily investment. Some of my favorites, the Revision, the IntelliShade True Physical. It comes in one tone, but it blends very well with different skin tones. Has a nice moisturizer, has antioxidants added. We're happy and excited to have the new ZO line of sunshade mineral sunscreens. Lots of great shades. So we're finding these blend very well for skin tones, very fair to very dark. And then another fan favorite, the Elastin Hydra Tint, has such a nice, elegant feel. So another great one, single tint, but it matches really well with skin tone. So sun protective clothing, this is another thing that has come a long way. We want to look for UPF ratings. So these are tested at how effective they are to block UV radiation. So an UPF rating of 50 is only going to allow 1/50th of those UVAs rays to penetrate. For reference, a cotton t-shirt is going to give you a UPF rating of about 5 to 7, so very low. And if that cotton shirt gets wet and those fibers separate, that UPF rating is going to drop even more, dropping down to like 2 or 3. Hats, really important. I'll hear from folks, I always have my ball cap on, I always have my visor. Those protect the forehead, scalp if you're wearing a ball cap. Unfortunately, majority of the face is left exposed. I'll often see with patients where there is a pretty significant difference in skin tone, skin quality between the forehead and the lower face. So finding a brim that's going to go all the way around the face, so wide brim, at least 3 inches. And as cute as some of the weaved ones are, they can allow light to actually come through. You can see that photo there. So again, finding something that's densely woven. So shade is important, but it is not as protective as we would hope. Again, I hear patients say, well, I wasn't wearing my sunscreen, I was sitting in the shade. Shade does block some rays, but UVA radiation does scatter in the air and it reflects off surfaces. So water, wide range here, 5 to 30% reflection, depending if the water is smooth, if it's rough and choppy. Snow is a really big one, 85 to 90%. But we get reflection off surfaces that we may not even think about. So concrete, sand, grass. So we are still getting more radiation than we think that we are. So topical antioxidants, a great thing to include in your daily skincare routine. These help to neutralize those free radicals. So that's what's created by those UVA rays that's damaging our collagen, our elastin, our DNA. So something that we're doing every day to help protect our skin. They're calming, so they're going to help to calm inflammation in the skin. They're going to help pigmentation, so helping kind of interfere with that excessive melanin production. Topical antioxidants, another thing that's worth investing in a high quality medical grade product. Vitamin C is a really tricky substance. It doesn't like to go into the skin. They really have to balance the pH. So unfortunately, a lot of them that we might get at Target, at Sephora, all these different sources, may be irritating, may not be doing exactly what it should be doing. So again, medical grade. Some of my favorites, the elastin C radical defense, the revision 30% correcting complex, and then the Skin Better Alto are really good, high quality. So HelioCare, interesting one. It sometimes sounds a little gimmicky. They contain its fern block, which is patented ingredient. It's derived from a fern plant, but there is extensive research on its effectiveness. It's an oral antioxidant, so it's going to help neutralize the free radicals that are damaging our DNA, our collagen, our elastin. It helps the skin be more resistant and resilient against the UV damage. Gives you like an SPF boost of about 3 to 7. So something that we're taking orally, we're getting that more comprehensive approach to sun protection, and we're protecting kind of from the inside out, which is really neat. So switching gears entirely, so treating sun damage. So unfortunately, we were not always as protective as we should have been. Even if we're doing all the things, we're still getting a lot more sun than we realize. So what can we do to help address and reverse some of these signs? So when we approach sun damage and when we approach really most conditions, we really want to look at the big picture. We want to do this 360 approach. So we're looking at lifestyle, we're looking at modifications that could occur, medical grade skincare, looking at skin health, looking at skin quality. So we're looking if there's redness or there's a brown pigmentation. Muscles, again, not impacted by sun, but the movement underneath the skin is going to contribute to lines becoming deep, etched in. So that is a part of the picture. We're looking at skin texture, skin laxity. With that, volume loss in the face will contribute to kind of that sagging that we'll see as well. So when you come in, we will create this comprehensive approach. So we're going to look at all the different elements. For some folks, that might be one laser. For some, that might be 2 or 3. That might be some injectables. But again, just looking at the whole picture and what we can do to fully address everything. Today, I want to highlight the Fraxel Dual. So this is one of our go-to lasers for sun damage. It's one of my personal favorites. I'm so excited to talk on it. Fraxel utilizes 2 wavelengths of energy. So we're going to have that 1927 nanometer, which is going to be more superficial, those top layers of skin, the 1550 nanometer wavelength that goes deeper. It delivers the energy in these, what we call microthermal zones. So you can see in the picture here, we've got little channels of energy that are coming into the skin at set depths, depending on the settings, the wavelengths that we're utilizing. It's fantastic for improving brown pigmentation. So we're evening that skin tone, we're lightening sunspots, we're stimulating collagen. So we're softening lines, softening wrinkles, we're helping pore size. The skin quality looks better, the health of that skin. This laser is FDA approved to treat precancers, and studies have shown a pretty significant decrease in skin cancer risk. One of the great things is this laser can be used on all areas of the body to treat sun damage. So face, neck, and chest, really common fan favorite areas. Also forearms and hands. I've treated backs, legs, yeah, anywhere where there's sun damage and you want to improve. So I wanted to highlight a little bit more reduction in skin cancer risk. So it's probably no secret we all want skin that looks beautiful, that looks even. But if there's something that we can do to help the health and help to reduce skin cancer, this is huge. 30% of fair skin individuals will develop a basal cell. So this is far exceeding any form of other cancer. If you've had a history of basal cell squamous cell, you're at a really high risk of developing another skin cancer. 35% risk of developing another in 3 years, 50% risk in 5 years. And it goes beyond just the fact that you had a skin cancer. Yes, this is a very difficult time. A lot of emotions are wrapped around this, but the scars that occur during treating them are gonna continue, and they're going to impact your quality of life. But the Fraxel luckily can help. So as I said, the Fraxel is FDA approved to treat precancers, treat those actinic keratoses. There are numerous studies on the efficacy and the benefit. One study that I pulled showed an 86.6% reduction in those precancerous lesions at 6 months. There was another study that was recently published. They looked at patients that had a history of basal cell or squamous cell. They divided them into a control group and the treatment group. The treatment group received a Fraxel, and they looked at these patients and they had a 50% reduction in developing an additional skin cancer. The time that it took to develop another skin cancer was also significantly longer. They do need a little bit more research diving into like trend, but they were also seeing a trend towards increased risk as with additional treatments. With Fraxel, this is a treatment that we do recommend patients repeat yearly. So we're just kind of staying on top of precancers and sun damage. So preparing for treatment, because we are addressing sun damage and pigment, we do want to be very cautious with sun exposure 1 month before and after treatment. We can't treat skin that's tanned. And this includes the sun as well as spray tans, different tanning creams. If we're treating the face and somebody is prone to cold sores or fever blisters, we'll give you Valtrex to take. Just helps to prevent you from getting a cold sore during treatment. Although not required, we do highly recommend starting 2 good skincare 2 weeks before treatment. The first is the Elastin Regenerating Skin Nectar. So this was a product that they studied across different lasers, and they showed it decreased the downtime. So it helps with the healing, it helps with that new collagen formation, and in starting it prior to treatment, we're helping to clear out old damaged collagen. We're getting that skin primed and prepped. This is a product that often will continue through the healing. The second topical is the ReQ Longevity Serum. So this is based on the idea and the science that as we age and our cells become damaged, they don't function as they should. They don't function like young cells. These cells also lose their ability to repair themselves well. So the Longevity ReQ is going to help to get that repair mechanism back in place. They've done studies where they're looking at these cells and they are looking and acting like younger cells, so that when we do a treatment and we ask a lot of our skin, produce collagen, we see better results. So this isn't a topical that we use during the healing, but we use prior. We stop for the initial healing and then we jump right back into it. So the treatment experience, we do apply topical numbing. So we're going to put a lidocaine mixture on for about 45 to 60 minutes. Bring something to do. You'll be sitting during that time. Following the numbing, we'll get the numbing off. We'll get the skin cleaned and prepped. Often we're pairing our Fraxel with our Alexandrite laser. So most folks, in addition to kind of diffuse hyperpigmentation and pigment, you might have some specific brown spots. So the Alex will go in and will spot treat these browns to get a little bit more lift of that pigment. In the photo here on the left, you can see those areas that do look pink and they look kind of frosty and white. Those were treated with the Alex. And then the Fraxel there at the bottom, it's going to roll over the skin. It's going to feel warm. It's going to feel prickly. We're going to do multiple passes. So as we do keep rolling, that skin, that heat does build. It starts to feel kind of like a bad sunburn. Typically, heat lasting about 2 or 3 hours afterwards. Fan, cold air blowing is really soothing and relaxing, and it helps ease that discomfort. But then that heat will dissipate. Patients generally tolerate this very well with the numbing agent. We do have Pronox, which is a light laughing gas that we can use. You can drive home with that. So if we got started, that's an option that we can add in last minute if needed. There are options for pain medications that we can prescribe or administer in the office if somebody's nervous, if they're pain sensitive. So a lot of good things to make this as comfy as possible, but again, generally well tolerated treatment. Got a little video. We'll see if this plays. Yeah, so you can see that Fraxel, it's rolling over the skin. And we're doing our first pass. And we Fraxel right over those Alex sites. So then typically, again, we're doing multiple passes. So we'll move different directions, getting a really good coverage over that skin. But the healing. So what to expect afterwards. Immediately after, you look and you feel like you have sunburn. So you feel flushed and hot for a few hours after. I will say most people leave looking a little bit more pink and flushed than she does in this photo. Through the week, your skin feels okay, but you do look red, you do look dry. Day 3, she really kind of looks like a baked potato. It's really tempting to want to scrub, pick, accelerate that exfoliation, but we don't want you to. That could cause scars or, pigmentation abnormalities in the skin. So we just let it fluff off when it's ready. We're supporting that skin through, hydration and some other good things that we'll talk about in a second. But typically a face within a week, she's still a little bit pink, a little bit dry and flaky, but pretty close to normal. She could put makeup on at this point. Other areas of the body do take longer to heal. So with chest, we typically see about 2 weeks for all that dryness to resolve. Arms, 2 to 3 weeks. Legs being the longest, about 3 to 4 weeks. But you're looking at very similar photos and kind of that expectation of what the healing would look like. So caring for your skin. This is Dr. Ishii, if you've had the opportunity to meet her. She's a strong believer in the Fraxel, both for herself, for her patients. During the healing, we want to keep everything really clean. So infection is rare. We have seen it, though, if somebody's not being careful, mindful. We'll give you a cleaning spray called LaserSyn. This comes complimentary to the laser, and we'll be using this through the week to help kill any pathogens that could cause a secondary infection. We want patients to use a gentle skin cleanser, so they're washing gently with their fingertips, no washcloths, loofahs, not picking at that dryness. We want to keep things really hydrated, so often we're using the Elastin Skin Nectar. Some cases we're using Vaseline only, in some cases we're using both, but something that we'll definitely talk through, specific post-care. But again, the general principle of keeping it clean, hydrated. We want to be really cautious with the sun a month afterwards. That new baby skin is more sensitive. We don't want it to pigment abnormally. So a lot of folks, fall, winter is a really good time for this. We're getting into those months, so exciting. So before and after photos. So let's look through these. So these patients have all given permission to be visualizing photos. This is one treatment. So that's the nice thing too, is yes, it's a week of downtime, but you're going to see a really beautiful result. So with her, we went in, we spot treated these larger browns. Fraxel rolled over everything. So we're cleaning up all of that diffuse brown pigmentation. And you can see that the skin quality looks so much better. That skin looks younger, it looks healthier, very age appropriate. It doesn't change your skin tone, just healthier, more radiant skin. Another patient, one treatment, younger patient, but did have a good deal of sunspots, sun damage. We can see just a really pretty kind of clean canvas approach. Another great patient, again, targeting bigger browns, rolling over everything. One of the questions that I saw pop up says, does Fraxel help with redness? Unfortunately, it does not help with redness. It doesn't make it better, but it doesn't make it worse. There are lasers like our V-beam, which is a pulse dye laser. This is going to be one of our go-to lasers for the redness. So you can see in this patient, that redness did remain. So something we could address and can even actually do the same day. So if redness is a concern, we can do the V-beam before we do the numbing, and then we can Fraxel over top. So addressing both colors. Another patient, browns improved, skin texture, lines, wrinkles looking softened. Another patient that had a good deal of precancerous lesions, a little actinic keratoses, and just seeing, great improvement. Skin texture. So when we're treating face, treating the neck is always great. We want everything to blend very well together. You can see the texture is looking much improved. A chest that we worked on. This patient, in addition to sun damage and some flat brown pigment, had a few keratoses. So those are ones that we also addressed. Other parts of the body, so the chest, arms, legs, sometimes we'll see more sun damage. So this is a patient that did one treatment, really nice improvement. Sometimes we'll go in and we'll do a second treatment. Just depends on goals, expectations, exactly what we're wanting to address. So sometimes it can be a series, but typically one session. This is another chest, showing kind of a close-up on that texture. Arms, hands, legs. So really, really pretty result. And again, the benefit that we're also getting that we don't even see, the precancers, the skin cancer reduction is wonderful. So next steps, we'd love to meet you. We'd love to take a look at your skin in more depth, come up with a 360 approach, comprehensive plan. We'll discuss Fraxel. Is this your best laser, or is there an alternative that would be better suited? Attendees for today do get $50 off a Fraxel and laser treatment with myself. Post photos, not required, but a lot of folks do like to come in a month later, look at their photos. I always tell people you won't need a photo to see the difference in your skin, but it is nice to see. And then again, that idea of a yearly Fraxel, so we're continuing that benefit and we're continuing with the damage that we are getting every single day.